Switch your mic, thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good morning. Good morning. It's fine. It's fine. Just give us a second just to adjust the mics on this side. We're just going to make it as loud as possible. You can speak?
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine. Are you going to do any presentation or are you just going to talk?
Yes, I'd like to.
Okay, thank you. Just make sure that you email us the presentation a bit later so we can just share it with colleagues.
I will share this in.
Thank you.
Just maybe a very quick apology. I was booked to fly this morning to come out to East London, but over the weekend my mother was admitted. She's in ICU, so I am sort of stuck. I can't move.
No, it's fine. We understand the difficulties of life. No problem. Please proceed.
Thank you. Chair, I'm really just going to give a very broad overview of what we at Grain South Africa are doing in terms of farmer development, specifically for grain farmers. And I think out of the conversation, hopefully we will find each other on the opportunities for collaborating and the opportunities for working to develop the Eastern Cape. But of course, our program is a national program, of which the Eastern Cape is part of that, program in terms of our regional presence in the Eastern Cape. So if you look at what we do within Grain SA, the strategic focus areas of Grain SA, there are a number of strategic areas that we focus on, but one of the key ones is really to grow and support developing grain producers to become commercially sustainable. So this is really the transformative, agenda of Grain SA, to see more black producers participating in grain production, increasing the amount of grain produced by black producers, and of course, contributing to the economic status of those individuals or the enterprises that we work with. And of course, the organization is integrated. So a great deal of what Grain SA does as a secretariat for farmers that produce grain is of benefit to every member of the organization. So all the economic issues, the trade issues for grains, the maize grading issues, some of the differential issues with the JSE, all of that work that Grain SA does on the broader, for the broader benefit of the industry, then becomes of benefit also to the developing farmers. So, Chair, I'm just going to highlight just quickly. So Grain SA has a development company, which is called Pahama Grain Phakama, which is specifically the company that drives the strategy on farmer development for grain producers. And this organization basically went into full operation in the past year, in March 2022. And of course, it was basically a conversion of the entire farmer development program of Grain South Africa to become a standalone entity that does farmer development. And there are a number of reasons for that, but I just want to give you the comfort that when we speak Grain SA in terms of farmer development, we actually speak PGP. So I think over time we'll get used to it, but this is where we are at the moment. And of course, that's the presence of the work that we do across the country in terms of our regional offices in the Sama area, as well as in the Western Cape. Now, if you zoom in specifically on the work that PGP does, one of the things that we have decided from our strategic view on the matters of farmer development is that we would like to work with and support a few farmers with more support. So in other words, we don't want to be everywhere. Unfortunately, we can't help everyone. So a few farmers with more support. We have a program that focuses specifically on funding, which is really growing and sustaining the revolving fund that supports farmers through a number of our partners. The responsibility here means that we are not operating in the grant space. And of course, that does not mean that our farmers may not access or are not eligible for grants, but within the program that we run, a great deal of it is generally loan funding. So repayment of loans is a key part of continuity and growing the program. And of course, a focus on profitability. And our view is that regardless of the scale, we have to make sure that every enterprise that we are working with is profitable, it's sustainable, it can stand on its own eventually. Enterprise-wide coaching and mentorship is one of the key areas of our focus. So in a farm that does beef and grains, the idea is that our mentorship capacity should be provided to help the business wider than just the grains on the farm. So the question is on what else is the farmer doing and how can we help in terms of diversifying the grain business and strengthening the rest of the business that the farmer is trying to run. So when you run your financials, the financials must reflect the entire business, and therefore the entire business is of interest to us. Mechanization challenges, I think we are all aware, for the developing farmers, mechanization challenges are extremely key. So for us, how we are approaching this is we have one of our partners that have put up a guarantee fund that will allow farmers to access mechanization funding. So this is really an opportunity that we're exploring, an opportunity that a lot of farmers will benefit from. And of course, this is asset financing. So for us, the idea of a guarantee fund allows these farmers to access money in order to buy machinery. And of course, this is not directly with a particular mechanization company. So this is a private company that is willing to put this guarantee fund. So it allows farmers to buy implements that are used. It will allow farmers to buy implements from any company of their choice. It would allow farmers to buy implements that are affordable, which is generally not easy to buy the brand new machinery. So market support is a great part of what we do through our marketing and economics team, training farmers on market intelligence, hedging, sports markets, and all of that. We share also on a daily basis the market report with farmers that are part of our Grain SA structures through different WhatsApp groups for each region. Succession is a key focus on our program. So the idea is that we want to be working with young farmers. And of course, we know that a great deal of developing farmers would be people in many cases that retire from a particular profession to go into farming. That's the only way they can access money to buy farms or access basically an opportunity to start farming. But even in those cases, the idea for us is that in all the businesses, there should be a succession plan. There must be a young person that is overshadowing the old man or the old lady, so that there's continuity in the work that we would have done in the next 10 or 15 years with the farm. It doesn't just go into retirement and all goes to waste. One of the key other areas is this idea of unlocking provincial partnerships. So of course, we are a national program, and I think this opportunity for me was actually very much welcome, because it's beginning to say how do you build relationships that are heavily invested on the local development issues. Otherwise, if you leave it to the national institutions, you run the risk of that money should be spread, or the development programs at the national level should be spread across the country, and therefore is not sufficient to address local issues. So for us, provincial partnerships is extremely, extremely key. And for all these farmers, the idea is to make sure that they are fully integrated into the grain economy. So we are not trying to duplicate or try to do a dual system where there is black farmers and commercial farmers. For us is we want developing farmers to be part and parcel of the commercial structures, because that's where the opportunities are. That's where, you know, you've got to be in that room. You've got to be, you know, on the table. Otherwise, then people are talking about you and not with you. So it's key that we get grain developing farmers as part of the grain economy as possible. In our program, Chair, we also don't do family farms. I mean, we focus on family farms. So the idea is we are trying as far as possible to avoid cooperatives. And I think for us, the whole idea is that, you know, in a farm that should be managed by one family, But if you take one farm, and the state has done this in the past, and I think things are definitely changing. One farm from one family that is actually in many cases struggling, and they decide that they are going to let go of the farm, and that farm is taken and given to 10 families. And of course, now there's no incentive for profitability. There's no incentive to work the farm to make sure the farm is profitable and is working. So in many cases, those farms will fail. And so for us, the focus is on family farms, is on husband and wife and his kids, you know, type of environment. And of course, a great deal of collaborations and partnerships is what we do. Lobbying and advocacy on land issues, water issues, electricity, markets, roads, grain grading issues. It's some of the things that we focus on as a program. You know, Chair, just some specific interventions that we do as part of the development work of PGP is that, you know, most of the farmers in the program are organized in small groups, in study groups. So the study groups are really a focal point for our interventions, especially when the numbers are bigger. But within the study groups, you get farmers that begin to push their muscle and want to grow, and they want to, you know, step out of the group environment. And for us, we follow through with those farmers. So one-on-one support is a key part of the commercialization journey. So on each one of those farms, we put in a mentor, and we provide, you know, extended support in terms of input funding. And of course, this is up to the capacity we have financially. One of the things that we also provide for these farmers is financial management support, where we co-manage the production loan with the farmer, but we also have opportunities where we have been able to access top-up funding for soil corrections for farmers, helping them to do corrections for their liming of soils, the chemical corrections, as well as the physical corrections like contouring and waterways and things like that. Crop insurance is one of the other areas where we try and help farmers to top up their insurance and make sure that most of their crop is insured, or at least some of the culprit fields are insured. And this is becoming generally a big issue across the country in terms of the cost of crop insurance, which is extremely high at the moment. Training and capacity development is one of the key interventions.
No, we've lost sound. We've lost sound. Just I'm not sure if there's an issue on our side or your side, but your mic does seem to be open. But for some reason, we've just lost your sound. So give us a second just to check where the issue is.
All right.
Yeah, there we go. It's back on again. Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I was just saying that training and capacity development is one of the key areas of our intervention. And I think most people would argue that, you know, how far do you train somebody? And I think for us, the industry we work in is continuously innovating. There is always new things that are happening. And so the responsibility for us is to continuously bring that technology back to farmers. And this is done both through you know, sort of theoretical and practical training, but also through demonstrations, where we demonstrate the technology, we demonstrate, or we try out, one technology that is maybe traditional over an innovative technology. And when I talk technology, I include things like seed, things like, rhizobia that farmers use to help root development for strengthening the crop's performance. All of those technologies are made available to the farmers. And of course, we continue to publish the Pula magazine, which is a magazine really dedicated to farmer development. So a lot of how-to conversation happens through the Pula. And I'll just highlight just a second. Chair, I think I'll skip this one. I think most of the stuff I just presented now really speaks to this model. The idea of farmers coming in as into study groups, as new entrants in the industry, and the idea of them coming out on the other side as commercial members of Grain South Africa. Just a few highlights. Just if you look specifically on maize, which I think is one of the key crops in the Eastern Cape, I just wanted to get a few statistics around just the maize crop. In the program, we've got about 11,000 farmers that are planting maize. And out of these, in the past year alone, we've had about 600 meetings through demonstrations or farmers' days or training or, just group mentorship programs. And within the smaller scale of the farmers, there is about 2,200 hectares that was planted in the past season with about 1,200 farmers. So you can see this is really small scale, 1 to 10 hectare farmers. If you look on the commercial side, we were possibly planting about 7,000 hectares of maize with just less than 40 farmers. So the bigger the scale, the smaller the farmers. So here, I think this is a relevant conversation, particularly for the Eastern Cape, which I think in the Eastern Cape, we had about 1,500 hectares that we were planting through the smallholder farmers, 1 hectare, 1 household type of farmer. And of course, I highlighted this, that there is then this focus that goes specifically for the advanced farmers. This is one of our most expensive programs, to be able to put a mentor on every one of the businesses that we support. But this is really just advanced mentorship, production planning issues, supporting the financial applications for the business, and as well as reporting for all the funders that are supporting each of those enterprises. On the extra input support, this is really a game changer for a farmer, to know your soils, to know where is what in terms of the best soils, the most acidic soils suffering from lack of phosphate or anything like that. And each one of the farms, we try to make sure that there is clear mapping so that the farmer understands what's going on the soils. And this is work that is really extremely important. Otherwise, if you just close your eyes and hope for the better or the best, you are in trouble. So this is the support that we provide specifically on the individual farmers. On training and capacity building, we are forever grateful to the funders that support these activities. So this year, although we focused more on some of the technical causes, but we also introduced a more stronger focus on business development, on business support, on financial recording, because the funders want to see financial performance of the business, and most farmers are almost operating bush mechanic style. They don't record their finances, and at the end of the day, you can't apply and get access to any loan without clarity on how is your financial performance and discipline. Demonstration trials is, like I said, a great part of what we do. I think this year we planted 18 trials, across the summer area, and we held about 30 farmers' days. Some of those farmers' days are not always directly associated with our trials. Sometimes it's a commercial farmer that is hosting a demonstration on a particular technology, and we make sure that our farmers that are developing are also participating through those structures. And all of these farmers' days are hosted in collaboration with the industry partners. So the idea is that we, like I said, we want to be able to introduce farmers to the agencies from these companies, so that a farmer is able to pick up the call and call directly for chemical advice or directly for seed advice or anything like that. The Pula Chair, just a bit of detail on it. So we publish this magazine. We do about 16,000 copies in a year, and we publish the magazine in English, Sesotho, Setswana, Sizulu, and Xhosa. And we distribute it across all our study groups for free to the farmer. So obviously somebody pays for it, and we may have to make sure that it's accessible to the farmers. An opportunity to share just on the performance of farmers. So within the Grain SA structures, the entry-level member of Grain SA is a farmer that would farm basically about 250 tons of maize. If you look at the output, that farmer then becomes a formal member, a commercial member of Grain SA. But of course, we know that that's just the entry-level part of at least our scale that we have developed. So we've seen farmers. This is just an example of the past 2 years, or at least the past 2 seasons, 21, 22, 22, 23. Farmers that were graduating at the different scales of performance. The 250-ton club, the 500-ton club, 1,000-ton club, 1,500 and above 2,000-ton club. And of course, if you look at a farmer that does 2,000-ton club, you can almost argue that this farmer is supposed to be now commercially competitive. But in many of the cases, it's not as easy. These farmers still need somebody to hold their hand and walk the path with them. And in many cases, they still cannot access a loan directly with a financial institution. So they remain part of our program, and we continue to help them to professionalize the business, the way they manage their business, so that they can eventually become commercial. So, Chair, just an example here, you can see just within a year, farmers moving from 250 to 500 tons, farmers moving from 500-ton club, the ones I highlighted here in yellow, would have graduated in the previous year as 500-ton club, and the following year they move into 1,000-ton club, and some here move from 1,000, adding a 500 tons more into their businesses. So there is clear demonstration of growth as the farmers participate and work with us through the program. Chair, we do celebrate Farmer of the Year competition in the Grain SA structures. And I just want to say that while we celebrate, we also recognize that there are many issues on the ground. And I think for me, one of the biggest issues is the failing infrastructure. And I think I'm talking here not just national road infrastructure, but also the in-farms. I think in the Eastern Cape, this is one particular key issue. For example, if you want to have somebody come out to your farm to help you, maybe a contractor or transport, and things like that, access to that farm is a big issue. So you've got a lot of people that may just decline that opportunity because they are not prepared to deal with the maintenance issues on their implements, on their tractors or their trucks. So for me, I look at the Eastern Cape Rural Development Agency. I look at it and I think to myself, how do we intervene to help the farmers beyond the stuff that we as community groups are able to intervene on, which is the practical production and helping the farmer become productive. Electricity challenges for some farmers that are irrigating is a major issue. And of course, I think in my view, we've got to be able to be a little bit more intentional about local solutions to accessing issues of finance and to accessing issues of land, rather than depending on the national dialogue on the matter or the national interventions. Like I said, if you've got partners that are funding farmers, they may just do one farmer in the Eastern Cape instead of the entire cohort of farmers, maybe 20, 30 or 50 farmers in the Eastern Cape. But if it's a national program, then it's 3 farmers in the Eastern Cape, 3 farmers in the Western Cape, 3 farmers elsewhere, 3 farmers in Mpumalanga. So for me, it's very important that there is more intentional interventions that are offered at provincial level than a dependency on the national level. And I think I will admit to you now that 99% of our intervention is nationally funded, and therefore it's affecting the local impact or the local sort of cake, a cut of the cake. So for me, I think there is really an opportunity for local agencies like yourselves to step in and step up and really help create more value for farmers. I mean, these are farmers that are citizens of the province, and therefore a direct interest should be definitely coming from local institutions to help us as national commodities to intervene with greater impact on those farms. Chair, just some of our partners that I want to recognize and say thank you to, and thank you for the invitation and thank you for the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.